In 7 years, Turkey has been tossed from one place to another. Our people have also been tossed from one place to another. We have seen what kind of monsters and what kind of wonderful people we both have inside us. You know how they say, which comes first, life or love? Right now, we're concerned about life itself. I have brothers in prison, I have a cousin there, and there are many businessmen like us as well. There are women in prison, there are children. During this period, I keep them at the forefront of my mind. By the decision of a judge at the Criminal Court of Peace, everything you've accumulated over the years, your companies, even your house, your property, your assets, even the car you drive, can be confiscated. Now, we've come to understand even better how important the principle of secularism truly is. We want the children of our country to be raised well, to receive a good education, and to believe in science. First and foremost, let's act with the reason that science brings us, with our intellect. I just can't hold a grudge against anyone. Our determination and perseverance continue. We will return soon and restore our companies to the places they rightfully deserve. With our entrepreneurial spirit, we will work with all our strength to advance our Turkey. I've built a whole new circle for myself, brand new, from Istanbul, Ankara, from all over Turkey. Can you imagine people? Right now, companies are facing incredible financial difficulties. These companies don't have any guides at the moment. I took on those guiding roles. Can you believe in people? There's so much love, really. They hand over their keys, their factories, their facilities, saying, please take care. And it's not just one, not 10, not 20 of them. My priority right now is for us to get out of this pit.
Herkese selamlar. Bugün Mustafa Boydak bizlerle. Hoş geldiniz.
Greetings to everyone from KKK TV. Today Mustafa Boydak is with us. Welcome.
Thank you.
Who is Mustafa Boydak?
Mustafa Boydak is a businessman from Kayseri. Of course, he has a family, children, and is someone with responsibilities. Right now, he is also one of the victims of this
Boydak ailesi bu süreçte ciddi bedeller ödedi.
In short,
the Boydak family paid a heavy price during this process. Boydak Holding, one of the symbolic names of Anatolian capital, was taken from you. Hacı Boydak and Memduh Boydak were arrested. I would like to hear about this process from you as well.
Dear friends, now of course I need to say this. First of all, I wish you success on your journey with KHK TV.
Thank you very much.
When it comes to the decree laws, I am also a victim of a decree law, and my family is one of the families affected by it as well. To explain, with the decree law number 667 dated July 22nd, 2016, the Boydak Education and Culture Foundation, which was under our family's control, was also shut down, and trustees were appointed to our company. Sir, additionally, detentions, further arrests, and so on. Our ordeal really began after that day. Unfortunately, when we think of the decree laws, this is what comes to our minds as well. I wish you success in this broadcasting venture as well. Of course, it's not just about my family's suffering. There are hundreds of thousands of families suffering in Turkey. We all know them very well. Of course, we are also in this process. He's one of our brothers, anyway. Memduh. Boydak's and Hacı Boydak's detentions began on March 4th, 2016. Essentially the process concerning us. When we look back at the investigation date of the case that was filed, we saw that it actually started in February or March of 2014. So, as of today, we're talking about a 6-year process. This is a 6-year process, and it still hasn't been completed. It's still ongoing. I mean, I don't want to go into too much detail, you know. This many people from the family were taken into custody, this many received sentences. There's really no need for me to say that. Of course, our priority is our brothers who are in detention, Mr. Memduh, Mr. Hacı, and Mr. Şükrü. We have 3 people in detention. Our sentences were handed down at the local court. These days, the sentences handed down by the local court have been upheld by the Court of Appeals. Now we're moving on to the Supreme Court phase. Actually, if I were to tell you everything we've been through during this process, It wouldn't take 1 hour, 10 hours, or even 20 hours. We'd probably need to film for 4 or 5 days. That's why I wanted to keep it brief. Of course, there are people who have suffered, but we truly believe that Turkey will, God willing, return to the rule of law. And in the coming period, we remain hopeful about pursuing our legal rights. When I look at what we've been through, I honestly can't believe it. It's been about 7 years since these processes began. In 7 years, Turkey has been tossed from one place to another. Our people have also been thrown from one situation to another. We discovered what monsters were among us. And we also saw what wonderful people we have among us, sir. Every person who has suffered has their own unique story. We witnessed all of this during this process. Can you even imagine? In Istanbul, I go somewhere, I'm eating at a restaurant. I look, and there's a friend of mine who used to serve as a consul in a place I knew before. Now he's standing at the cash register there, or he's working as a manager. I go somewhere else. You see, among the staff at a hotel, there's someone I know. A former teacher, an English teacher. You go somewhere else and you see someone working at the front desk, a former chief inspector. Of course, these things are sad on one hand, but on the other, they are events we deeply respect. Why don't people give up? They try to hold on to life with whatever they have. I will never forget these things for the rest of my life. I think that the process we went through, maybe even if 100 years passed, it wouldn't be experienced again. What we went through, there were truly incredible hardships, but at the same time, I also feel very happy. Why? Because I see people holding on to life, their determination, perseverance, morale, and solidarity with each other, and I say, the spirit of unity and togetherness in our nation is truly wonderful. But on the other hand, I feel sad when I look at this. During this period, an image was created as if people with KHK status were harmful individuals, and we saw that they were abandoned even by their closest ones. But on the other hand, when you look at it, we saw that people they had never met before stood by them. These times will pass. I have great respect for the greatness of Turkey and for the founding principles of our Republic of Turkey. When I look at it, we have no intention of turning back. We have no business in the east or the south. Our direction should be towards the west. Entrepreneurship is truly spoken about in Turkey. The Anatolian people need to quickly return to business life. There are indeed a significant number of our people in these prisons. I fully expect that these people will come back and rejoin our group right now. And I have never allowed any of these setbacks to truly get me down. But what should we think about the past? Friends, don't dwell on what was said. I was someone who not only traveled abroad, but also used to fly privately and travel within the country. Today I buy my ticket. We get on and off scheduled flights. We go wherever we need to go. It doesn't bother me at all. Not at all. Never. What I know is that this is just a temporary situation we're experiencing, and we have to try ourselves. If we have ever wronged someone, let us be held accountable both in this world and, of course, God will ask us in the hereafter. We believe, but on the other hand, I can't stand to see people being wronged by lies and deceit. This is one of my greatest sorrows, and there are people I miss. There are still people being detained, including my siblings and many of our friends. We miss them. But I also know that Turkey will overcome these hardships. And when Turkey overcomes these difficulties, we will need to serve Turkey again, right? And we will gladly do this. And with these feelings and thoughts, may God protect our Turkey so that it remains in peace, free from the risks of wars and such in the surrounding region, also in its foreign policy. We will embrace a vision of Turkey that is beautiful, peaceful, close to everyone, and does not interfere in anyone's internal affairs. We will set aside hostilities, and Turkey will move towards such a bright future. To tomorrow, I want to imagine a Turkey where per capita income has reached $30,000 to $40,000.
Now, as an industrialist, as a businessman, I would also like to ask a question about the Turkish economy. How do you evaluate the current Turkish economy?
Well, let me put it this way, Ms. Zida. Our priority, as they say, is it life or love? Right now, we're concerned about life itself. I truly have siblings in prison. I have a cousin, and there are many businessmen like us as well in prison. There are women, there are children. During this period, I keep them foremost in my mind, On the other hand, if we talk about the economic situation, Turkey is a big country. Yes, there are significant problems today. At the top of our major problems is unemployment. The overall unemployment rate has reached 15%. Youth unemployment has reached 26 to 27%. And when we include people who have stopped looking for work altogether, the rate rises even further. We are experiencing a serious decline in agriculture. There are significant declines in industry as well. In fact, regarding the Turkish economy, I believe that we need to overcome the issue of trust. If this trust issue is resolved and the grievances are addressed, I believe the Turkish economy will gradually recover. And Turkey could return to its former bright days in a relatively short period of time. However, when we look at the current conditions, the Turkish economy, especially our macroeconomic balances, are experiencing a serious deterioration. Our borrowing figures have increased significantly. Even though we still say our public borrowing ratios are reasonable, they are rising rapidly. And we used to be a country that ran a primary surplus, operating with a 6.5 to 7% primary surplus. Now, instead of a primary surplus, we are looking at how much our primary deficit is. That's what we're checking now. Therefore, this situation also needs to change. Of course, one of the main factors that needs to change in this situation is the issue of trust. I repeat, our people need to trust their state and nation again. Everyone should be able to act freely and comfortably. Especially this idea. It's already in our constitution, but it needs to be emphasized again and again. When we create a Turkey where freedom of thought exists and people are not imprisoned for their opinions, I believe that the economic situation will also quickly start to improve.
The increase in grievances is reflected in the economy, and if these grievances are resolved, you believe that this will have a positive impact on the economy in a short time.
Yes, absolutely. Because people should be able to invest freely, they should be able to take their savings to the bank freely. People shouldn't have these thoughts crossing their mind. Could the money I deposit in the bank be confiscated? Could a precautionary measure be imposed? Or could the business I established somehow be seized because of my political views or worldview? Because when we look at what we've experienced and when we look back, it's a crime, with a decision from a judge in a criminal court. Your years of savings, your companies, even your house, your property, your assets, even the car you drive can be confiscated. And this, well, saying I'm not like that, takes years to say. Look at our case. Now, an investigation was launched in 2014. It's February 2020, and we're still going through the court process step by step. It's been 6 years. I mean, this is a terrible situation. Even the delay in the delivery of justice is an incredible injustice. What do they say? The religion of the state is justice. When there is justice, it becomes one of the most important economic parameters of the country. The issue of trust, the issue of security is overcome, and I think this will open up Turkey's reputation in an incredible way.
As a businessman from Kayseri, we knew the Boydak family as nationalist and conservative. But the side where you experience victimization is also political Islamist, conservative. So, in this context, how do you currently evaluate Islamic referenced political parties and secularism?
Honestly, Ms. Eda, please don't call it political Islam. We were a conservative family, but... Well, yes, that is correct. In our overall philosophical worldview, sir, sometimes our perspective on politics would also be found to align quite closely with that specific viewpoint. That's certainly true. But now, of course, there may be some changes in opinions. Personally, I don't have much connection in my worldview. I'm saying this is Mustafa Boydak, because from my point of view, my perspective is already established. And how should I put it? I suppose you could say it is a bit more... I was someone who was closer to the secular segment. Now, of course, we've come to understand much better how important the principle of secularism is in this regard. The people of our country have also come to understand this better, because there are an incredible number of people from the conservative segment who have been seriously harmed by this. It's not just FETÖ or the FETÖ-affiliated circles, it's everyone in some way has been harmed, is starting to be harmed, and will be harmed. That's how it seems. But of course, what we desire is this. We want the children of our country to be raised well, to receive a good education, and first and foremost, to believe in science. We want to act with the reason that science brings, with our intellect. And in Turkey, our orientation must always be towards the West. Once we reach the standards of the European Union, then in our country, questions like, should the government be like this or like that? Should it be secular or Islamist? Will no longer be an issue. Each has its own function, but of course there must be a space for people to be free, a space where they can be free in their thoughts. That's what I think.
Did you have any past relationship with President Recep Tayyip Erdogan or our former President Abdullah Gül? If so, what kind of relationship did you have?
Of course, they are all our elders. Our current president, Mr. Recep Tayyip Erdogan, was our prime minister at that time. He was called our president. Now, the 11th, our former prime minister, even our foreign minister, Mr. Abdullah Gül, with all of them in the world of politics. Maybe I might not know some of the friends who have just entered politics today. However, there is no one I don't know, including the leaders of political parties active in Turkish politics. I know many of them, and I know them personally, because we were in business life, and I served as the president of the industrialists in Kayseri for 12 years. I served as the chairman of the board of the Kayseri Chamber of Industry for 12 years. Therefore, from time to time, when there were issues in our region that we needed to resolve, our then Prime Minister, Mr. Recep Tayyip Erdogan, would call us directly. He would say, President, there is such an issue, please help resolve this. Or regarding our companies, those who had requests from the company's dealers would somehow reach out to us through the party or other channels. They would call us and say there was such a problem and ask if we could help, and we would do so. Also, from time to time, they would ask for our opinions from Ankara regarding our region. Some of our industrialists and businessmen would somehow apply to Ankara, and we would be the first point of contact regarding those applications. If it was a matter related to business life, they would call and say there was such an application. They would say, there is such an issue, what do you think? How can you help with this? That's how they would call us. And we have a relationship that goes back a long way. But of course, we would never try to take our relationship into different areas. Of course, that would never be the case. They are our elders, they are still our elders, and of course, when necessary, we will be in contact with them.
Are you upset with the people of Kayseri?
No, I can't be upset with anyone. Of course, we do have some resentments from time to time. First of all, Kayseri is the city where we were born, where we grew up, and where we made a living. Kayseri has contributed a lot to our lives. But it should be said this way. When these things happen to us, of course, among our people, there were those who were saddened by these misfortunes. Surely a great majority of our people were saddened, but when we think about the conditions of that day, the events of July 15th had happened, and people were even afraid to greet each other. At that time, as I mentioned, there was a process that started from July 22nd onward. There was a negative atmosphere against us, which has continued since then, and our trials had begun. At that time, people were so afraid that they didn't even dare to greet us, let alone come near us, but I'm not resentful. My only disappointment is about things related to us. The things that weren't true, the information that wasn't real, whether individuals and institutions that stood against us under the pressure and guidance of various circles by giving false statements in the public sector, including administrators who were in charge at the time, as well as people from the private sector, businessmen, or people from the community, or those who made a profession out of being false witnesses in these matters. Of course, some people came forward by now. Many of their names and statements are already visible. On the other hand, many of those who were secret witnesses have also been exposed. Because as things were discussed during that period, the names eventually came to light. Naturally, our resentment is towards those groups, because they acted as if things that never happened actually did, especially regarding my siblings and our family. They made such claims. And of course, many of them were summoned to court during the trial process. Now, something very interesting happened. Ms. Eda, normally, a statement given to the police is also given in court. In the presence of the court, statements are taken there as either the defendant or the witness. Now, in our courts, many people came and said, well, I had said it like this, but it was written like that, they told the defendants. They said, this is the truth. At the end of the trial, the local court said, we accept the statements given to the police, but we do not accept the statements given in court. Because they said, we think the witnesses were influenced. However, in the law as we know it, statements given to the police are usually repeated in court because they are made under pressure. If the statement in court is the same, the court statement is taken into account, or if it's different, the court statement is considered. But with us, the exact opposite happened. The court said,
if the statement given in court is not going to be considered, then why is there a court at all?
Well, honestly, we don't know that. It was really strange. I don't know. Is there such a practice in Turkey? But that's how it happened with us. While we were being tried at the Second High Criminal Court in Kayseri, they said that the statements given in court were invalid and that they would only consider the statements given to the police. And our sentence was given accordingly.
What is the current status of the Boydak holding case? What are your expectations from the European Court of Human Rights process?
Let me put it this way. Our sentences from the local court were upheld by the Court of Appeals in Ankara just recently. They were upheld without a single change. The next stage is the Supreme Court of Appeals. Of course, these days we will be submitting our appeal to the higher court, to the Supreme Court of Appeals. At the same time, of course, our processes related to the ECHR will naturally come up as well. But I believe that if there is even a shred of justice left in Turkey, the mistakes made in our trial will be recognized by the Supreme Court of Appeals. I truly believe this, and there will be no need to go to the ECHR. In other words, regarding both the criminal sentence and the confiscation decision, there will be no need to go to the ECHR. However, of course, we need to state the following. At that time, we took the decision by the Kayseri Criminal Court of Peace to appoint trustees to the companies to the ECHR. Those processes happened quickly. After the Criminal Court of Peace, we filed our objections. Ultimately, the Constitutional Court ruled that there was no violation. That was the decision. We received it. We took that decision to the European Court of Human Rights. And I think these days over there, it has been put on the agenda or will be soon. I don't know exactly. We're following up on it. Of course, I expect a finding of rights violation there as well, because our various companies have been under very strict financial audits for many years now, for at least 6 or 7 consecutive years. You know, we have to wonder, is there some specific amount of money belonging to the local community? That's the kind of image they try to create here. Unfortunately, all the major media channels we think of today, whom we've known for years, all of them, every single one, are people we've personally met, friends we've helped through every difficulty. Yet their teams have created such a perception that it's as if our companies were founded by Fethullah Gulen's people. It's gotten to the point where, since 1957, the companies our fathers founded with their hard work and which our older brothers and we rapidly developed and hopefully will continue to do so, they created an image as if these companies weren't really ours, as if they were developed with collected funds or something like that, excuse me. And in that way, they practically, let's just say they threw us to the wolves.
What do Boydak Holding, Istiqbal and Bellona mean to you? How many people used to work here? How did you feel under your government?
Well, Ms. Eda, at Boydak Holding, if I remember correctly, on August 18th, 2016, they showed me the door. At that time, I was the chairman of the board, me. A truckload of police showed up, and with them, at that time, the local trustee in Kayseri knew them. A few of those trustee staff came as well. They created the impression that we were going to cause some kind of incident there, bringing a truck full of police, and they came in the evening. I was just about to leave the company. So we said, all right, welcome, please come in. I handed it over. I said, hopefully one day we'll come back here. I believe that one day we will return there. This is, this, for the past 3.5, 4 years, well, I can't calculate the exact time right now. Of course, we raised these companies like our own children. It was a small business inherited from our father. Thanks to my elder brother Hacı, my brother Shukru, and Mr. Yusuf. Shukru and Yusuf are our cousins, and Hacı is our elder brother. The three of them, before our time, put the company into a period of rapid growth. The company. Then Bekir, Memluk and I. The three brothers, when we joined them, we started to grow even faster. We began to invest in different fields. Then Heskab joined our group, and so did Anadolu Finans. Today, it continues under the name Türkiye Finans Katılım Bankası, and we still hold shares there. They did not allow us to sell our shares. We transferred our shares in Türkiye Finance Participation Bank to TMSF. There was no method of appointing a trustee. However, lately, there have been some kind of scoundrels. The government-appointed employees at the holding company let these words slip out of their mouths. Then they had to take it back. The bank is a matter of reputation. I was the one who said these things would be wrong. I said, please, you're talking about things like this. You're making a mistake. And indeed, on social media and elsewhere, they immediately took back their words. Anyway, as long as we're healthy, that's what matters. We finally got here through our own dedicated and tireless efforts, but of course, the things we see are not encouraging at all. Our brands are still dear to us, of course, but unfortunately, they've fallen incredibly far behind. Many competitors have overtaken us, they've passed us by. But our determination and perseverance continue. We will come back soon and restore our companies to the places they deserve. We had 13,000 employees. I'm not even mentioning our numbers at the bank yet. We had 4,500 employees there, and all of them were like siblings to us. I still see it that way. Even though, unfortunately, some from among us, while we were struggling for our lives, took on the role of planning the conspiracies set up against us through various authorities. Of course, these things are going down in history, not just in Boydakolik. I also served Kayseri for 12 years at the Kayseri industrial zone, and I made significant contributions to the development of Kayseri's industry, together with myself and my colleagues in the administration. But unfortunately, in our last term there, while we were struggling for our lives, while we were dealing with our brothers in prison, while we were trying to make sure Kayseri wouldn't be harmed by these issues, people were busy thinking about how to seize our companies, how to appoint trustees. They went around giving advice and ideas to public officials here and there about this. In fact, to go even further, unfortunately, some of my friends, some of those friends from the Kayseri Industrial Chamber whom I promoted, were even lobbying among themselves, wondering which of us would be appointed as trustee. And when I look back at all this, I don't feel sad. I just laugh it off. Why? I mean, what has the guy even done? Who? He has shown his true character. I have nothing to say to him.
Recently, there has been a lot of talk about political alternatives in Turkey. Mr. Davutoglu has founded a party. It is said that Mr. Babakan will also found a party. How do you evaluate these parties?
Turkey has to once again turn its face to the West, and Turkey must prove that it is a member of the international community through its institutions and rules, and in the process going forward as well. And my politics are about preventing victimization. On the other hand, we have never been involved in politics. And in the process ahead, our concern is for our country to move forward. Of course, hopefully we will get out of these pits. I don't know what will happen after we get out. But it seems to me that Turkey is on the verge of significant political developments.
I realized this when we experienced a victimization. In fact, there was already victimization happening. You also mentioned that they were different kinds. For a fundamental solution to these victimizations, political parties alone aren't the solution, right? Social awareness is also essential, because political parties come and go.
Actually, let me put it this way. If you look at our laws, even though we call our constitution the September 12th Constitution and so on, we actually have a quite liberal constitution in Turkey. Our laws aren't bad either, but the problem here lies in the implementation and in the fact that the legislative, executive and judiciary branches have become intertwined. It's of course very important to separate these with clear boundaries. And we also need peace within our society, a social peace. All segments of our society, of course our opinions may differ, our religious beliefs may be different. Sir, our intellectual perspectives may also differ. But we have a common ground, our Turkey. And our religious beliefs may also be different. Look, years ago, there was a division made between Alevis and Sunnis, and so on. In Marash, in Çorum, in Sivas, and who knows where else, so many incidents happened. Look, today people wonder, could such issues come up again? People ask themselves this. But I believe that Turkey has already moved far beyond those times. We have come leaps and bounds. The common sense, intelligence, and mindset of our people are capable of overcoming these things, and that's the direction we're heading in. I don't think there's any turning back from this anymore. And as a Turkey that is more open to development and has raised its level of education, I think that especially in our own region, and particularly to our east, we need to adopt an approach that once again spreads our civilization.
Do you miss your siblings? When you go to visit them?
What you talk about? Yes, I do miss them. For example, even though Mr. Hacı is 5 to 6 years older than me, he always addresses me as president. Because in 2005, I became the president of the Industrial Association. Honestly, how should I put it? He is someone who can be great with the great and humble with the humble. He is truly a very respected businessman, full of life. Can you imagine that? He's someone who even traveled all the way to Greece and Italy with his motorcycle friends. If you ask about Memdu, I really miss Mr. Memdu too. There's only a small age difference between Memdu and me. We have a special situation between us. Memdu and I studied together in Muğla for 2 years. Back then, they used to call it Muğla School of Business Administration. Its name was MU. It was a 4-year college affiliated with 9 Aylul University. A 4-year program. So I guess my capacity wasn't that high. That was the only place I could get into. So I went there and started studying. Memdu said, "Brother, I'll come there too." He was also in commerce. He was graduating at that time. When I started my 2nd year, Memdu started his 1st year. He got into my school. We became roommates. For 2 years with Memdu. I graduated from university. Memdu studied in Muğla for 1 more year. Later, he transferred to Istanbul to the Faculty of Business Administration at Marmara University. His grades were good. My grades were good too. So, that's something Memdu and I have in common. At work as well. Memdu was the CEO of our company at that time. And I was the vice chairman of the board. We were like Mr. Hacı's deputies. Mr. Hacı was our chairman of the board. Of course, most of the time, Memdu and I had ideas that overlapped. But there were also many times when our opinions differed. There were even times when we argued. Our colleagues who worked with us know this very well. But at the very least, no matter what happened during the day, when we left in the evening, we always preserved our brotherhood. I miss it. Mr. Şükrü, likewise, used to oversee our cousin's investment group, Şükrü Boy as well. I miss him too. But I make sure to visit them at least once every 3 weeks to Sincan. They're in Ankara. Of course, 1 out of every 4 visits is an open visit. The others are closed visits behind glass. We chat. I share some information from the outside with them. I tell them about life. They tell me about inside, but I actually want them to talk more. They tell me what they do inside. They tell me about their daily activities. They write me more letters. I can't write letters very often, but sometimes I do write. And there's never any discouragement or sadness. And whenever I visit them, I always, especially with Memdu, if there was someone whose actions we used to laugh at a lot, if we really enjoyed it, I plan to imitate that person's way of speaking or their actions. When I go, I say, "Memdu, who used to do this?" Right away, we're on the same wavelength, and that's how we spend our time together. And especially when I go to Ankara, I always make sure to stay at least 1 night so I can breathe the same air as my siblings there. That's just one of our quirks. What can we do? This is what fate has in store for us. God willing, we'll overcome this too. I believe there isn't much time left for them either. These people, truly, God is my witness, are among Turkey's leading, most enterprising individuals. There are many people like them who are currently left idle. Some are in prison, some have lost their jobs and livelihoods. Some are struggling with hardships, their surroundings have been closed off, you see. But I sincerely hope that Turkey, and especially the current political administration, will see this and take swift action.
As a businessman representing Anatolian capital, how did you acquire this entrepreneurial culture, this management capability?
Now, my dear sir, if you would kindly allow me to put it this way for you, I'm going to take you back to the 1990s. The late Özal came to power in Turkey. He became prime minister in 1983. After that period, opportunities gradually began to open up for the people of Anatolia. We didn't know what import or export was. We had no idea. At that time, only people from certain regions, especially foreign capital companies and people from other backgrounds, were involved in exports. From Turkey, because there weren't even people who spoke foreign languages, not many anyway. But with Özal, the way was paved for Anatolian capital in Turkey. Of course, when it came to the 1990s, this process accelerated even more. But it should also be stated clearly, with the AK party, which is in power today, coming to power in 2002, the opportunities for Anatolian capital expanded even further. So we need to say this. From 2002 until the end of 2013, we truly invested in Anatolia non-stop. We constantly developed our entrepreneurial spirit. And people in Anatolia began to accumulate capital. And as the Boydak family, I can say that we made significant progress during that period. Until when, you might ask? In 2013, as you know, starting from the end of 2013, this culture of ours, we started to lose it. And unfortunately, different debates began to emerge in the country. And inevitably, we too got drawn into them in one way or another. These debates, and of course during that period, grievances began as well. But our spirit of entrepreneurial unity is also, of course, a characteristic of Kayseri. The spirit of entrepreneurial unity is ingrained in the genes of Kayseri, and when we look at it, in most of the wealthy structures in Turkey, you'll find Kayseri natives have a hand in it. That should also be noted. And of course, if a person loves their hometown, their surroundings, and their family, they naturally want to work harder. And when you work hard, success follows. God willing, in the coming period, we will continue to work with all our strength to develop our country with this entrepreneurial spirit.
If the process comes to an end, what kind of stance will you take?
Well, my stance has never changed. Ms. Eda, I mean, when I look at it, we are people who love our country. Even though there was a time when, whenever we went out, there were people who would look at us with disapproval. Now, thank God, we can hold our heads high and look people in the eye. I guess our only crime is loving our country too much. For years, we've been scrutinized. For years, people have wondered if there's anything wrong. That's what they think. Not a single. After the appointment of the trustee and so on to us, a lawsuit was filed by the company. The company is currently managed by the state, but there hasn't been a single lawsuit filed against us by the TMSF. Or, I don't know, there's nothing about any loss of rights or anything like that. We know these things for sure. We have always stood by our own principles. We have never changed our stance. I am someone who believes in intellectualism, who reads, who follows what's happening in the world. I have a personality that doesn't mix religion and faith with life. I try to raise my children in a more free and open-minded way. These qualities will continue. Nothing in my life will change. I am someone who stands by my principles. In the past, maybe we used to live a bit more luxuriously, you could say. I mean, if driving a luxury car means living luxuriously. Yes, right now, for example. I drive an Audi A6. Back then, I used to drive a Mercedes. And now, who knows, maybe life will turn around again, sir. Our business will get back on track. Our innocence will be proven. I will still be the same Mustafa Boydak. Of course, maybe there will be some changes in my surroundings again. During this process, in these last 4 or 5 years, I have experienced some incredible stories, especially when it comes to friends and acquaintances. For example, we have a significant circle in Kayseri. Businessmen, industrialists, business people, chamber and exchange friends. Now 95% of them have disappeared.
How were your children affected?
But let me tell you this, I have built a brand new circle for myself. brand new, from Istanbul, Ankara, from all over Turkey. Can you imagine, people? Let me also say this today. Since I have many areas of expertise, especially in financial affairs and finance, I also have a background in banking. Right now, companies are facing incredible financial difficulties. These companies lack guides, so I've stepped into those roles for many of them, as well as for my friends and loved ones. Can you believe it, people? There's so much love. They hand over keys, their factories, their facilities. They say, please. And not just one, not 10, not 20 of them. Right now, my priority is for us to get out of this pit. I call it a pit. You know, my brothers being in prison, our sentences and so on. We need to sort those things out first. We need the judicial process to proceed in a way that the judiciary believes in us. Once I give my word on that, then I can focus on work. Otherwise, if I were to do business today, I could be running the incredibly large Boydak holding. They've even changed its name now. We're actually in a position to go and manage even bigger organizations. But today is not that day for us. Right now, our priority is life itself, not Kenan. That's the situation. I am very grateful to our children, to both my own children and my nieces, nephews, cousins and sisters-in-law. I sincerely thank all of them. They were, of course, more victimized than we were during this process. After all, we have more of a businessman identity. So on and so forth, we're a bit more resilient, you know. They showed even greater resilience than we did. May they always be well. In our family, we are in complete solidarity. We are not in a position to fight or cause any commotion with anyone. And I never will. Even if things turn around, I would never turn to people and say, you know, like, we did this with you, we'll settle accounts, and so on. Now, an incredible number of people from the press and media, as you have also witnessed, have said and are saying personal things against us. For the past 3 years, I have been responding to such remarks with documented evidence. Other than that, we are not in a position to respond to harsh words anyway, but those who, excuse my language, called us terrorists and so on are nowhere to be found now. Of course, if there are any among them from whom I need to seek accountability, we will pursue our rights within the bounds of the law.
Is there really any hope for people who have suffered due to all these statutory decrees, KHKs? Do you have any hope that these grievances will be rectified?
I absolutely have hope. First of all, we need to say this about these people. Sir, there are people who have been issued a decision of non-prosecution who have been acquitted. Right now, we have thousands of friends who were dismissed by statutory decrees, KHKs. First of all, these people urgently, very, very urgently need to be reinstated to their positions. A regulation should be made immediately, and they should be returned to their jobs as soon as tomorrow morning. On the other hand, when we look at our other friends dismissed by KHKs, 99% of them have not committed any crime. It's always about abstract connections and associations. Whatever it is, that's how it was expressed at the time. I don't want to look back and criticize too much, saying it should have been this or that. Apparently, those were the circumstances of that day. In my opinion, under today's circumstances, the way forward is to remedy the grievances of these people. If someone, hasn't picked up a weapon or done anything like that, then that's it. It doesn't suit us to punish people just because they used a certain program, attended a gathering, joined a conversation, or sent their child to a certain school. The Republic of Turkey is a great state. It is a republic founded by Ataturk. It is not fitting to victimize people here. Back then, under those circumstances, the leaders at the time did these things, and today's leaders are responsible for correcting them. Maybe, I don't know, perhaps even the same people. Back then, it was like that. In fact, by saying it should be like this today, it is entirely possible to resolve these grievances with just a few adjustments. What is it? When it is declared by a single decree that the following numbered statutory decrees have been removed from the agenda, the Parliament, with the majority, the issue is resolved. You know, by labeling people, by calling people FETÖ member, this or that, or whatever else. There is no point in worsening our social harmony or hindering our social peace like this. All right, that day. Under those circumstances, the state acted with a certain reflex and made these mistakes, but today it needs to correct those mistakes it made, and I believe it should. These things will be fixed.
Up until now, you've received offers from many media outlets, but as far as I know, you haven't accepted them. You accepted our offer, and we thank you for that. Why did you choose KHK TV?
Well, you know, I'm also someone affected by a decree law. I'm kind of all over the place when you look at it. Like I said, with decree law number 667, the beginning of our end was set in motion. I have a lot of respect for people who have lost their jobs and livelihoods because of the decree laws. I respect them. I both feel sorry for them and respect them. Each of them is fighting their own battle. And the only institution that truly gives a voice to these people affected by the decree laws is KHK TV. So of course I had to give priority to this place. Thank you very much to those who founded it, to everyone who contributed. On the other hand, I received offers from many media outlets, whether biased or unbiased, it doesn't matter. There were invitations. They said, come, please, let's talk, let's have a conversation with you. Whether it was friends broadcasting on YouTube or those broadcasting on a national scale, general TV channels, it didn't matter. I didn't accept during that period. But when the offer came from here, I said, of course I need to make time for these friends. And I said, I should gladly speak with them. That's why I'm talking to you now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Teşekkür ederiz.